Pretty diverse top 8 here. It is Legacy, so that's not much of a surprise. But we've got a Storm, a couple copies of Shard with the Soul Tie, which was our most played deck there in day number 2. 105 players making day 2, 14 of which playing Shard with the Soul Tie. You got White Red Death and Taxes, Reliquary Retreat, Teamer Delver, Miracles, and even Infect here from Tom Ross. So we are underway with the Verdant Catacombs from Devin. He'll sacrifice that, fall down to 19. Get Underground Sea, and perhaps we'll have an Ancestral Visions on the way as Ross will play Gataxian Probe.
A little shortcutting here from these two players who are good friends.
Yeah. It was a Deathrite Shaman for Devin to start.
Also,
now you do see his hand.
Koepke threatening the monopoly that Andrew Boswell has on the gun show.
Ah, I see.
Some competition.
Okay. Boswell does really have that market cornered.
Yes.
I gotta say. A lot of fetch lands there for Koepke along with Abrupt Decay and Tarmogoyf.
But this is a hand from Koepke that's at least vulnerable to Inkmoth Nexus. You see Abrupt Decay, Tarmogoyf, no defense against flyers, so at least one of Ross's threats has the potential to be good here.
Brainstorm the draw here for Devin.
In my opinion, the most important card for Koepke in this matchup is Baleful Strix. It gives a little bit of early velocity, helps him find his land drops, and it's just such a good blocker. Very problematic card. It's innocuous, but against Infect, it's one of the best cards in the deck, if not the best card.
Ross going to aggressively use Force of Will in this Tarmogoyf. Wants to leave Devin without a clock.
Yes.
That Force of Will resolve. Here comes Deathrite Shaman for 1. And the defensive Berserk is going to be played here. Wants to get Deathrite off the table. Something we don't see very often.
If Tom is doing this, you know, using a Force of Will and Tarmogoyf and then Berserking and Deathrite Shaman, he probably doesn't have an Infect creature, but has pump spells and cantrips. So he wants to slow the game down a little bit.
So something that you can do with Berserk, which we don't see very often, is you can target their own creature and it'll die into combat.
Yeah, this spell cannot be cast after current turn's attack is completed.
Which is pretty clear.
That's very clear.
Yeah. Another Forceful here from Tom on Piracy Charm. Tom is being very aggressive with these counter spells. Well, he's sensing some real weakness here.
Koepke's not got a lot to do right now, and Tom needs him to not find anything to do.
You saw Tom aggressively counter a Brainstorm there with the Force of Will, removing Piracy Charm, but Koepke had found another one. And unfortunately for the boss right now, Koepke has also found a copy of Wasteland. Now you don't know if he's going to sacrifice that away, and he will. So actually what Devin did is he put Wasteland back on top of the deck. Now Tom doesn't know any of this is taking place, but this is actually pretty notable because now Devin's going to play this copy of Deathrite Shaman, pass a turn back, and I think we're going to see Tom probably crop rotate for an Inkmoth Nexus and try to get the job done that way, and Devin may be without an answer now.
I didn't get a good look at the rest of Koepke's hand, but the Wasteland is really valuable insurance, and you know, if you're on the other side of the table, you've got an Abrupt Decay in hand, Ross really isn't up to anything of note, this has to be on your radar.
Well, here is crop rotation. You have to imagine it's going to get Inkmoth Nexus. It's a hard answer for any Soul Tie deck, as they rely so heavily on Abrupt Decay to get the job done, but Abrupt Decay cannot kill Inkmoth Nexus. So, Ross has found a plan, and now he's going to try to use it to get the job done.
Still a very slow clock. Ross with no pump spells. He's got nothing else really going on right now.
Oh, but it can speed up quick.
But this is a start.
1 Infect here. Ross will get out that Infect counter that he won via Invitational. Koepke does have a Jace in hand, also a copy of Abrupt Decay.
And you can understand why Koepke eventually shuffled away that Wasteland. Hard to give up on Jace and Abrupt Decay in this spot.
However, Ross's draw last turn was a nice one, given the situation. It was a copy of Spell Pierce. So the boss is going to search up a tropical island with this Verdant Catacombs. We're going to see him Spell Pierce this Jace because you can't let that thing resolve. And now Tom's looking for a Noble Hierarch, maybe a pump spell, who knows what, to go along with the Inkmoth Nexus. Picked up a copy of Invigorate. Gonna shrug his shoulders, fire it up. I think we'll see him cast it. Yes, we will. So to be an attack here for 5, Koepke's up to 6 Infect now.
And he knows he's playing against a deck with discard spells. No reason to hold it.
Yep. Koepke will draw. Looks like he may have picked up a copy of Brainstorm, and he will cast it.
Koepke desperately needs to find Baleful Strix.
That or a Wasteland. Found a copy of him to Torak. That's not going to help right now. 2 cards will go back on top here for Devin. Deathrite Shaman. Looks like it's going to remove a land. Now we'll have Shardless Agent. That'll Cascade. It will go past a Wasteland. It'll be him to Torak. Koepke not going to cast that one, it looks like. Actually, it looks like he will.
Might as well cast it. There's enough shuffling of the deck that occurs, and he doesn't want to draw him to Torak.
Yeah, I don't want it in my deck anymore.
Yeah, just get it out of there.
Ross will draw. This is a Ponder. We could find an Invigorate to end the game right now. Wasteland, Noble Hierarch, Inkmoth Nexus. Interesting to see what Tom wants to take here.
Second copy of Inkmoth Nexus is not a bad consolation prize.
Noble Hierarch doesn't seem too bad either. Does increase the clock. This is a tough spot here for Tom. You can see.
This is not a bad allotment of cards, but it's a slow allotment of cards. Ross can just spike Invigorate to win the game right now, or if he finds something like a pump spell for the next turn, become immense or something like that, that might be better than keeping these 3 cards. This is really close to a shuffle. There's something to be said for having the certainty of what the next couple of draw steps are going to be and planning accordingly.
Looks like he's just going to take the Inkmoth Nexus, fire up this one, come across here for 1 Infect. Koepke's going to go up to 7, pass the turn back. Will Ross over to Koepke. Koepke will take a draw step here. I think he may have picked up another copy of Hymn to Torak. Quick update for you guys. Another matchup here. Craig Bargo, Teamer Delver player, number 3 overall seed, is up a game here over Tiani Zhao, who is playing Miracles, number 6 overall seed, as Charlotte's Agent comes into the red zone. 2 damage will be dealt, but Ross is untapping. He's quickly drawing. See if he wants to cast Noble Hierarch this turn or not. It looks like he says, I'm just going to attack here with both these Inkmoth Nexuses. Puts you up to 9, in fact.
He knows Koepke can't really interact with these cards at instant speed.
Yep.
It's happening at sorcery speed via Wasteland or Baleful Strix.
Ross will play that Wasteland. Pass the turn back. Koepke will remove Ponder. And now he'll draw a card. It's a copy of Plutodufta. That's no help either.
I mean, it kind of had to be something like running Baleful Strixes to get out of this spot.
You see the hand, there's some discard spells, there's Maelstrom Pulse, there's Abrupt Decay, but none of that stuff's going to help against the best threat for Tom in this matchup, which is Inkmoth Nexus. He found it, he found another one, and he got the job done. You see the both players laughing a little bit there. Tom's aggressive use of Force of Will to get Tarmogoyf off the table probably helped win him that game.
What is noticeable about that game was how fast Tom was making complicated decisions. He has played this matchup several times. There was no hesitation with the Force Will. There was no hesitation with the Naked Invigorate, even though it cut off Berserk as a lethal draw. He knows exactly what he wants to do in the matchup there. Very well played game.
Well, we're going to the sideboards here, and we will start with Devin Koepke, who's got 2 Disfigures, a Pithing Needle, a Toxic Deluge, a Knight of Soul's Betrayal, a Grafdigger's Cage, 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Hymn to Torak, 3 Meddling Mages, and a Scrubland. Even better options here.
Well, the 3 copies of Thoughtseize are excellent for this matchup. The 1 copy of Pithing Needle, the 2 Disfigures, and Toxic Deluge, good answers to threats on the ground or taking care of Inkmoth Nexus. The real lights out card in the sideboard is Knight of Soul's Betrayal.
Yes.
That is an explicit anti-infect card. Ross does have some anti-enchantment measures in his sideboard, but if this sticks and Ross can't kill it, he can't really play.
Well, he does have some anti-enchantment measures, as you mentioned. You see the sideboard here with Nature's Claim and Crow's Grip. Other cards here, including Karakas, Flusterstorm, Hydroblast, Necropede, Force of Will, Viridian Corruptor, Surgical Extraction, Crop Rotation, Bajuka Bog, Wasteland, Spellskite, and 2 copies of Submerge.
Well, I think you'll see the Spellskite come in here. I do like the anti-artifact and enchantment measures. You know about Baleful Strix, which is a card that you have to remove even if it costs you some card economy. And Knight of Soul's Betrayal requires some answers as well. I don't know if this is a great matchup for something like Submerge. Koepke's threats have a lot of value when they enter the battlefield or when they're cast out of your hand. It doesn't seem like a great tempo play to me, but maybe he'll go to it.
Those are the options there for both players. Koepke will be on the play, and as they do finish sideboarding up and shuffling for game number 2, we're talking about the Star City Games Invitational Qualifiers, and we've actually got a survey for you guys to take because we're looking to make things better here with our IQs, and no better way to do that than to hear from you.
Again, you can go to go.starcitygames.com/IQ survey. Fill out the survey, only a couple questions, and everyone who does will be entered in a raffle on Monday for a free box of Battle for Zendikar.
Because who couldn't use a Gideon?
Who
Maybe
couldn't
even
use
2.
Scalding Tarn.
Yeah.
Cinderglade.
Great card.
Great card.
Expeditions aplenty.
Ulamog.
Pretty good card.
It's good once it's in play.
I'm kind of a hater. It costs so much mana. Either way, go.starcitygames.com/IQ survey. Survey does end on Monday. 3 simple questions. You can even open up a new tab right now while these players are sideboarding. Answer those. Throw your name in the opportunity to win a box of Battle for Zendikar. And of course, we thank you guys for any feedback that you do provide as we attempt to make our IQs better. It's better for us, and it's better for you.
Only takes a few moments. Someone's going to walk away with a free box of Battle for Zendikar. I think an important card for Tom in this matchup could be the Viridian Corruptor in the sideboard. Doesn't look like much, but 2 things. 1, a lot of Koepke's threats, Baleful Strix most notably, Charlotte's Agent as well, they're artifacts, so being able to destroy them is nice at parity. And the other issue is that it's a 2/2, so it's something that actually survives through Night of Soul's Betrayal, unlike all of his other impact threats, which are just done if that card shows up.
Oh, definitely is an option. So I imagine Tom will probably bring that in. Doesn't seem like a bad one at all. Now, as far as what these players are playing for here, pretty healthy amount on the line. Now, of course, there's a pretty good chunk of change for first place, $5,000, an invite to that Season 4 Invitational. But those 25 Open Series points, very important for Tom Ross, Matthew Tickle, and Eric Hawkins as far as that Players' Championship race is concerned.
I can't recall an Open Series event we've covered this year where so many players who are in competition for some of those slots are all battling out in the top 8. And this is a big quarterfinal matchup here for Tom Ross, who's trying to solidify his position, try to climb up the standings, get to the Players' Championship, and of course, a lot riding on the Matthew Tickle, Eric Hawkins match as well.
At the very least, these players are walking out here with $500 and 10 Open Series points, so that's certainly a big deal as this Players' Championship race is getting more cutthroat as we go. Joe Lissette just lost a match basically playing for top 8 against Chris Van Meter. Van Meter needs points, Lissette needs points. We know that Tom Ross needs points. Eric Hawkins, Matthew Tickle, they do too. And unfortunately for those two good buddies from Minneapolis, they're playing each other right now. Hawkins on Storm, Tickle on Charlotte Saltide, but right now, Tickle up a game here over Hawkins. Bit of a surprising result there.
A big upset, and with the sideboard, it's not like things are good for him, but they're at least an improvement over getting over game 1. So getting that first game is a huge deal.
So these players will shuffle. It looks like the boss might be taking a mulligan here. We'll see. Tom down to 6. Does get to use the Vancouver mulligan rule. That one's going to the bottom. Tom is happy enough, and we're underway here. Thoughtseize is where Koepke will start. You see Boss's hand. He's got a Nature's Claim, a Spell Skite, a Spell Pierce, an Inkmoth Nexus. Devin will ray out the rest here. Shows Defiance of the Vastwood. And a Windswept Heath. One card he can't select, though, is the one that beat him last game. That was Inkmoth Nexus.
Though something that is good for Koepke in this matchup in the post-board games, he has ways to interact with Inkmoth Nexus either preemptively or at instant speed. The Pithing Needle, the 2 copies of Disfigure are tools he doesn't have in the first game, and they do a lot of work against Inkmoth Nexus specifically.
So Devin going to kind of take a look at his hand before making a decision here. Looks like he's going to go with Spell Skite. Leave Ross with a weird hand. Remember, Tom did scry to the bottom. So let's see what his first draw step is. Copy of Brainstorm. Never a bad place to start. Ross will start off with a Windswept Heath. Pass the turn back over to Koepke. Koepke will cross that one off his list. The draw here for Devin is a Wasteland. Good answer there to the Inkmoth Nexus. Couldn't find that last game. He'll play a Brainstorm now.
Doing this into a Spell Pierce that Koepke knows about.
And what's notable about this is that we might see Koepke try to get this Spell Pierce, then Wasteland Tom.
I think that is likely. Tom's hand not functional right now without a second mana and blue and green mana.
Koepke going to cross Spell Pierce off the list. Will he cross Wasteland off his own list? Looks like the answer is no. Just going to play Underground Sea, pass the turn back.
And Koepke probably has designs on that Wasteland going after Inkmoth Nexus, also with Charlotte's Agent in hand. He just might want to get to 3 mana as soon as possible. Charlotte's Agent into some goods.
Inkmoth Nexus, the draw there for Tom Ross. He'll play one of them. Koepke will cross the one off his list he knows about. He doesn't know about the other in hand, however. Baleful Strix, the draw, a big one in this matchup.
Yeah, that is critical. Now, there is a Nature's Claim in Ross's hand, so wouldn't surprise me if Koepke just went with Charlotte's Agent this turn.
A Swamp, and there's a Baleful Strix. That will resolve. Koepke will draw a card. It's a heck of a card in this matchup. You mentioned the Nature's Claim in Ross's hand. Pretty useful for the Strix. We'll see if he wants to cast it now or not. Looks like the answer is yes. So Nature's Claim will resolve. Koepke will gain some life. We're heading back the boss's way. He'll draw a copy of Ataxian Probe. He'll lead off with that. He'll pay 2 life to cast it. We'll get an idea of what Devin's working with, which is a Wasteland, a Charlotte's Agent, an Abrupt Decay, and a Forest.
Now, if Ross has found a second copy of Inkpot Nexus, which I believe he has, he can get a threat going. There's only one Wasteland to answer 2 copies of Inkpot Nexus right now.
A little bit of beat downs here for the Inkpot Nexus. Tom plays the other one, passes that turn back.
After 6 rounds of Swiss, and pairings for round 7 are now being posted. Please quickly look at these. Take your seats.
That'll be hard to cast with no green mana.
2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The way that Koepke set up his lands last turn, it's complicated because he constricts into a lot of 1-mana cards. But if he played the Forest or the Wasteland out in front of this, then he could play Charlotte's Agent this turn and leave up Wasteland. Now he's got to choose between one or the other.
Well, he's going to go with Charlotte's Agent this turn. Cascade by a Force of Will and a Bayou, along with a couple of cards here. Now that's a real hit there in Baleful Strix.
Yeah, that's the best prize of them all. Maybe Koepke would prefer the Pithy Needle, but this is a great hit for him right now.
He drew into a copy of Force of Will. Now he's going to play Deathrite Shaman, pass the turn back. So a pretty nice turn there for Devin. 3 creatures added to the board. Now Tom's looking at a Brainstorm. That's going to have to do some real heavy lifting. The boss will untap, picked up a copy of Noble Hierarch.
I'm getting a little gummed up now.
Yep.
Koepke's still with that Wasteland for one of the Nexuses. Glistener Elf does not look good here. Koepke with a Abrupt Decay to answer potential Blighted Agent. He's got things covered.
Yeah, saying Glistener Elf doesn't look good, a bit of an understatement. It's a tough spot for that card.
You know, that's step 1 to beating Infect. If you can get into a spot where none of their threats are a vulnerability to you, you can answer everything. It's not that hard to win from there. The deck does not play back against resistance that well.
No, not really. It just kind of pushes you off balance, and then it's really good at taking advantage of that.
Right. It's out is trample. That's his way to get out of spots like this.
Here comes that Wasteland.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the standard open, I've got
Going to take care of Inkpot Nexus right now.
If you believe you are going to be in the top 32,
Here comes Charlotte's
and
Agent.
wish to get a cash prize,
2 damage dealt.
you need to have filled out a tax information form with us at the stage.
Looks like Ross is going to fall down to
So once you're
15.
finished with your match, please come see us at the stage. You will
Now we're
not
going to
be
head
able
back
to
the
get a
boss's
prize.
way. Picks up a copy of
You
Brainstorm
have not filled out a tax form.
to go along with that Noble Hierarch and Vines of the Vastwood. Tom's going to play it off a Tropical Island. So 3 cards come in, presumably. Koepke can't hardcast a Force Will here if he'd like, but he'll let that resolve. So Spell Pierce, Glistener Elf, and Brainstorm are the cards that are drawn. 2 will have to go back. They join Noble Hierarch and Vines of the Vastwood, I believe.
As you get yourself set up for this match, please do not offer.
You can see just the effect that Baleful Strix has on this game, though.
It's very challenging for Ross to handle it without giving up a lot of value. And Koepke has a lot of answers to the other threats in Ross's deck.
Game of Magic using your standard decks to determine your match result.
Those 2 cards going on top. Brainstorm done resolving. And now here is a Noble Hierarch.
To round 7 of 7. You have 50 minutes. You may begin.
Nature's Claim is going to get removed by Deathrite Shaman. Ross will fall down to 13. Here's a Brainstorm from Koepke. Does have a Misty Rainforest to go along with it to make it a pretty good Brainstorm as far as shuffling bad cards away goes. Two cards going to go back. Brainstorm done resolving. Now here's Abrupt Decay. Looks like he's considering casting it, but looks like he's going to be going with him to Torak instead. Tom with 2 cards left over. He'll play Brainstorm, try to hide something here. but not too much going on with the top of the library.
Yeah, you can put back an Infect Threat and a Vines. It's easy to discard the Forest.
I'm sure he'd love to discard all 4.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to draw these cards. This is more what the matchup looks like, I think. At least on Devin's side.
With Baleful Strix, he just has a ton of control over what the game looks like.
Another update for you guys here. Steven Schleppers with his Reliquary Retreat deck. Up a game right now over Colin Logan, who is playing White-Red Death and Tax. His normal Death and Taxes deck with a small red splash for cards like Imperial Recruiter and Magus of the Moon.
And I can dig that splash because those are 2 very good threats to have to be able to vial in.
Yeah. Uh-oh. I'm thinking regular damage.
Koepke's at 22, so
make it 21.
I think he can afford to take the hit.
He'll sacrifice that fetch land. Get a Bayou. He's going to remove Gataxian Probe from Ross's graveyard. Thanks to Deathrite Shaman. Tom will fall a little bit lower. Here comes Charlotte's Agent. It'll deal 2 more. But Tom is working himself in a situation right now where there are not very many good draws left.
And he's empty-handed, dead in about 2 turns.
Yep.
I think we'll be going to game 3 in a moment.
Not a lot of time left thanks to these Deathrite Shamans. Here comes Glistener Elf. It'll be an attack for 3. Koepke with Abrupt Decay in hand. Devin says, I'll take it. Up to 4, in fact. 4 isn't 10, so that's fine with me. Couple of activations here of Deathrite Shaman. Ross going to fall down to 3. Koepke will untap, upkeep, activate these, and that'll take care of this game. So Devin Koepke is going to tie it up here against Tom Ross. Charlotte Sultai, Infect, getting ready here for game number 3. It's definitely a difficult matchup here for Infect, and you can see why with how that game played out. And you see the sideboard here yet again. Koepke's got some great options that he's got to bring in.
Yeah, the Thoughtseizes, the Disfigures, the Needle, the additional copy of Toxic Deluge, Night of Soul's Betrayal. Just great options across the board. Don't know if he sideboarded into more copies of Timid Torak. He's got 2 in the main deck and then 2 more in the sideboard. They seem fine in the matchup if he's just trying to wear Ross out. But it's also not a card that interacts with the board very effectively. So it wouldn't surprise me if Koepke has some, but not all 4 in his deck.
For Tom on his side, we saw aggressive use of Force of Will and other cards in game number 1. He's got to dilute his deck a little bit. Curious to see what he's bringing in and out of the matchup. So many one-ofs there. So a lot of these cards can be pretty potent, though I do like your idea of bringing Viridian Corruptor. It can be useful in this matchup.
You saw the issues that Baleful Strix creates for Tom. That's a way to exchange with it at parity in terms of card count. It's a threat that is still productive in the face of Night of Soul's Betrayal. There's also the Charlotte's Agents in Koepke's deck list as well, which are targets for Viridian Corruptor.
Well, those are the options there for both players. We're talking Fall Creature Collection now here with Star City Games. That means we're talking playmat sleeves and bundles of some game night favorites.
Exactly. You see the Fall Creature Collection here. The Hippo, the Otter, the Reindeer, and Penguillian Click, all available on playmat sleeves and player bundles over at starcitygames.com/creature collection or at our dealer booth at any of the opens we're at or any Grand Prix that we're at.
Can't forget about our good friend Penguillian Click there.
Penguillian Click.
There you go. There you go. That's our new parody playmat that people seem to be loving.
They are scheming, or 2 of them are.
Yeah, one of them is just having a blast.
Just happy to be there.
Quick updates for you guys on the rest of our matches that are taking place here before game number 3 between Tom Ross and Devin Koepke happen. Matthew Tickle, number 8 overall seed, playing against his good friend and travel partner, Eric Hawkins. He's currently up a game. Charlotte Sultai up a game over Storm. Very surprising. They've already played once this weekend. Hawkins won very quickly 2-0, and Tickle does not like his matchup, as you said.
Big upset game 1. When you go to the sideboard here, Tickle does have some extra discard spells, things like Vendilion Click. These are helpful cards. Tough for them to share in the matchup around all by itself, but picking up game 1's a huge deal.
Team Delver versus Miracles. That's Craig Bargo versus Tayani Zhao. Bargo up a game. He's number 3 overall seed against Zhao, who is number 6 overall seed. And then we've got White Red Death and Taxes from Colin Logan, currently down a game. That's number 5 overall seed against Steven Schlepphorst, who is playing Reliquary Retreat. And that is, of course, the Knight of the Reliquary Retreat to Coral Helm kind of combo deck. Can play a normalized game with his banned strategy, but he has that combo kind of woven into the deck, and you can learn more about that on our coverage page. There was a deck tech there with Steven, and he did make the top 8 here this week, and so congratulations to him. And currently up a game with the deck. If he does win that match, he'll be playing against the winner of Eric Hawkins and Matthew Tickle. I imagine that'll be our feature match next round. For now, though, it's the boss, and it's Devin Koepke. Game number 3 of this quarterfinal matchup. Tom will be on the play, number 7 overall seed against Koepke, number 2 overall seed. Koepke was number 1 after day number 1, our only 9-0 player. Did win that Indianapolis Premier IQ a couple of weeks ago at SCG Indy with Charlotte Soltai. And deck has been forming very well for him and a couple others as well. Rudy Briska, Chris Van Meter with a nice finish with that deck this weekend. A lot of people liking this strategy moving forward in our most played deck here in day number 2.
Time appears to be a concern, however. A lot of draws.
Doesn't win games quickly.
And it does have all the brainstorm, Charlotte's Agent, fetch land sort of fidgetiness where a lot of your operations take a long time to resolve. Playing the deck efficiently, very important. Not a deck I would bring to the tournament cold.
A fist bump, and they're ready to go here for game number 3. Good friends doing battle. Always good to see good sportsmanship. Looks like Tom is happy with his hand as Devin will take a look at his slowly but surely. He's good, and we are underway here with Tropical Island and just a passing of the turn over to Koepke. Not a fast start here from Tom. Tom does have a Spellskite in hand. Koepke is staring at a Wasteland, maybe thinking about getting him.
I don't mind. The problem is he's got Deathrite Shaman in his hand. And he does have something in mind for that Wasteland, which is Inkmoth Nexus.
Yep.
So this is one of the few times I'm going to say, go ahead and cast your spell. Don't Stone Rain him.
Hold steady. Ross will draw, picked up another Tropical Island. Got a Spellskite in hand over there. Blighted Agent 2.
His own Wasteland.
Yep. Could employ a Wasteland strategy. He'll play that Wasteland, play a Spellskite, pass that turn back. See if this resolves as Koepke's looking at a Force Will along with a Brainstorm over there. Also has a copy of Disfigure, a Wasteland of his own, a Forest, and a Tarmogoyf.
Spellskite is particularly good against Disfigure, which is a problem here for Koepke. There's a lot of spots where Spellskite just represents a removal spell. You know, you have your Abrupt Decay, now it has to target that instead of something else. But when you have Disfigure in your hand, that card's just shut out. So makes Spellskite a little bit more attractive to counter. It looks like Koepke's going to let it resolve.
Pluto dealt to the draw. Here's a Brainstorm to start the show. That will resolve. 3 cards coming here for Devin. 2 cards, of course, will have to go back, and he's got a fetch land to pair with it. Quick update for you guys on our 1 versus 8. Eric Hawkins playing Storm has tied it up against Matthew Tickle playing Charlotte Soltai. Means Tickle will be on the play there for game number 3 as those 2 good friends from Minneapolis do battle. Koepke done resolving that Brainstorm. Now sacrifice Blue to Delta to shuffle away the garbage, get a land out of his deck as well. Looks like he's going to go with a Bayou, remove a land. Perhaps we have a Tarmogoyf on the way. It'll be a Baleful Strix. Yikes. That's in there.
This again.
Yep. And we mentioned a couple of times why it's so important for Tom to have a card like Spellskite in the matchup, but also Blighted Agent. It being unblockable is a big deal.
It's tough. No matter what threat you point to in Ross's deck, Koepke has a variety of answers. This is especially the case post-board when he picks up a lot more answers to Inkmoth Nexus.
Here's a Submerge from Tom. Now there's Blighted Agent. I'm curious if he wants to use the Wasteland or not.
This might just be ahead of schedule for what Koepke had planned. This is a pretty explosive turn here from Ross. but to have an infect creature and a submerge and maybe get wastelanded all in one shot, the game might have sped up in a way that Koepke did not anticipate.
Another update for you here is we'll see if this Blighted Agent does resolve. I think Devin considering a Force of Will. Craig Bargo and Tiani Zhao getting ready for game number 3.
After 6 rounds, pairing for round 7.
That Blighted Agent did resolve. Wasteland took out that copy of Bayou. Now we'll see a Pithing Needle.
I think this is going on Spellskite with Disfigure on the Blighted Agent.
I think I agree. Confirmed Spellskite. Here's Disfigure. I think we might see a defensive Invigorate here. We do. Koepke will get some life in the exchange, but Blighted Agent is still on the battlefield. We're heading back Ross's way. He picked up another copy of Invigorate.
And now we're looking at Spellskite unfortunately shut off here, but at least a threat that can attack through a Baleful Strix.
Koepke's hand right now, Force of Will, no blue card, Tarmogoyf, Deathrite Shaman, and I believe another land. So how aggressive does Tom Ross want to get here? That is the question. He'll start by attacking for just 1 infect. Will he pump here or not? It looks like the answer is no. We're going to head back Koepke's way. Polluted dealt to the draw. Devin's other land in hand is a Wasteland. But again, he does not have a blue card to pair with that Force Will. He'll sacrifice the Delta for now. You have to imagine searching up some sort of green mana here. We'll go with a Bayou.
Game 1 was a story of wrong answers for threats. Game 2, Koepke had everything. This game feels somewhere in the middle of the two.
Tarmogoyf, Deathrite Shaman, and now here's attack from Baleful Strix. We'll check the sizing on that Tarmogoyf here in just a moment as we head back Tom Ross's way. It's a Daze.
You can see Ross with the slow draw there. I mean, he knows he's got a lot of kills in this spot.
Just an attack for 1. Koepke up to 2 infect. We head back Devin's way. Let's see what he draws. Forest.
I like Ross not playing his lands here, trying to protect himself as much as possible from Hindatorak.
Here comes Tarmogoyf. Here comes Baleful Strix. Tarmogoyf checking in at a 2-3 right now. Seems like a pretty safe block with the Spellskite, yeah?
With Needle in play on Spellskite, I don't see much of a reason not to block.
Yeah? There is a block. Ross will take 1. Back to Tom we go. Another land here for the boss. It's a Misty Rainforest. He'll attack for 1 more. Still not willing to make a move that Invigorate just yet.
I think at this stage from Tom, I would have played a land because he wants to have enough mana to, if he draws Brainstorm or Ponder, do a lot of things in 1 turn.
Looks like Toxic Deluge may have been the draw here for Devin, which is a weird one for him to cast right now.
To Deluge for enough to ensure that he kills Blighted Agent, he has to kill all of his own stuff as well. And his hand is not very good after the fact. It's just a Force of Will.
You have 50 minutes. You may begin.
Now, he did play land number 5, which lets him hardcast Force of Will. That's worth noting. Here comes Tarmogoyf. And Baleful Strix again. There's a block on the Tarmogoyf. He might feel confident in casting it now. Yeah. He can say, I'll do this for 2.
Well, if he does it for 2, then a pump spell saves the Blighted Agent.
I agree. We'll have to figure out how much he's going to cast it for. He's got to pay X life as part of the casting cost. Now here's Invigorate. It was just going to be for 2. So a bunch of stuff going to bite the dust. Tarmogoyf's going to be left over along with Blighted Agent. Wasteland looks like it might be going after something, which Tom would be thrilled with, I think.
And Tom's hand's just a lot of lands.
And a daze, it doesn't appear to be too useful.
Koepke Wastelands here, then Tom's Daze is playing back against Force of Will, even if Koepke draws a land.
You see Tarmogoyf now is a 4-5. That's going to outpace Blighted Agent pretty easily. It might be bigger than that. Yeah, it's a 5-6. Back to Tom we go. Forest the draw. Here comes Blighted Agent. Koepke up to 4 Infect. Ross will play a Misty Rainforest. He'll pass the turn back. Koepke will draw. Here comes Tarmogoyf for 5. Ross will fall down to 10. Looks like it may have been a Verdant Catacombs. Doesn't look to be anything too useful as we head back Ross's way. Here comes Blighted Agent. Koepke up to 5. In fact, Blighted Agent was the draw here. That might be on blocking duty now. We'll see. Ross will pass the turn back. Koepke will draw.
If Tom blocks, that slows down the clock quite a bit.
Yes,
because
it
he's
does.
at 10. Tarmogoyf gets a -1/-1 counter from Infect, and then it's 3 turns.
Here's him to Torak. Tom's been holding on to those lands for a long time, along with the Daze. Truthfully, his hand is pretty useless at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't matter a whole lot. The Daze has some value because Koepke's on 5 mana with a Force of Will in hand, but I don't think Ross cares all that much about him.
He'll lose 2 cards, Daze and a Forest. Left with just 2 lands in hand. Koepke doesn't know that, though. Here comes Tarmogoyf. I'm curious if Tom is blocking or not. He's going to do some math on how much he can actually do here if he draws a threat versus ABCXYZ.
I like a block here. It changes the clock quite a bit. On top of that, any of Tom's +4 effects still gets the job done.
Don't forget about the sneaky Dryad Arbor in Tom's deck list.
Sure.
Now, there is a Wasteland out there. Now, here's a Deathrite Shaman shows up to the party now. Tom took the hit. He falls to 5. Koepke thinking about using Wasteland, but he's not going to use it just yet. Berserk. Just one's coming in. Koepke up to 6 Infect. He'll untap and draw. Looks like another copy of Wasteland.
Oh, and a second Wasteland here is a huge deal for Koepke.
Yep.
He can shut off that Dryad Arbor chump block.
There is the second Wasteland. Pass the turn back. However, there are some good draws here available for Ross. Going down to 4 is very dangerous because there's that Deathrite Shaman out there. So now all Tom can do is draw a card. Picked up a Noble Hierarch, which isn't too bad.
I mean, this sets up a lethal Berserk on the face of it.
Here's an attack. Exalted Trigger, there's Berserk. Now, Koepke has Force of Will to cast, so he will counter it.
It's got to be off the right lands, though. It needs
Yep.
double blue.
So Koepke's going to go up to 8 Infect. He'll activate Deathrite Shaman, drain Tom for 2. But Tom's got this Noble Hierarch to block with. There's a block. Pass the turn back. Is it a top deck?
Oh
It's
my
a copy
God.
of Pendlehaven. Pump and attack? All Tom can do is laugh? Oh my God! Tom Ross is going to win the match over Devin Koepke. 2 games to 1. It had to be Pendlehaven.
Exactly, Pendlehaven.
Oh my goodness. Tom Ross. All they can do is high five. Does it again, and he is moving on.
So that's something I hadn't considered because I was about to say I still don't understand why Tom didn't take that opportunity to have that chump block with the Blighted Agent, and it just drags out another draw step for him to draw Pendlehaven.
Sure.
Is the answer, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Obviously.
What else could it be?
With Force of Will off the top, I mean, that one really stings.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, it's been a heck of a run for Devin Koepke coming in today as the only undefeated player, and to lose that game in this matchup, you can tell there's some frustration there, and understandably so, especially when you draw Force One the last turn. But it is Tom Ross who's going to be moving on to the semifinals, and that's a big win for him for a couple of reasons. One, it's one step closer to walking away with a nice